tell the council
Here's
members.
Tina.
Show her you.
Have you had a good summer?
Wonderful.
I've not talked to you at all. It just seems like, gosh, I wonder
How
how
you
you
been
did.
forever?
Seems like forever since we've seen John.
Yeah, it probably does.
Don't worry, we
retired.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I gotta get another job.
This is my 23rd. All right. Steve, I'm coming to you last.
Hey, that, pray as
Do you have dates from me as to when you got volunteer? I send it to you. No, you didn't. Okay, that's my fault.
you working again this year?
It's my fault.
They didn't, did pretty good. The weather forecast now showing.
They used to play.
Continued.
Sexy girls.
Yes.
Did James Love? Well, I used to play football over there.
It won't be long.
We
Losing next week.
We lived over there. Mom said that's where we first moved to, over at Ritz. We used to walk there.
We know Sarah in Carolina Beach, where she lives. 14. Well, she lives between Carolina Beach.
Oh, is that what I said? Whatever days I send. Okay. That's what I, yeah, so those are when I'm planning to be, whatever days I send. That makes sense.
Yeah, we are gonna pull the vacancy out. Yeah, we'll do that before we not go into that. So I'll do it here.
The only day I can't go is Friday.
Okay.
So that'll be the 14th, 16th, 17th.
Fill the vacancy. Just for a brief discussion. And it can go either at the first. Those two regular business.
And then I'll just. Yeah. Well, I'm probably not the last time last year. I'll bring a shirt and offers. Thursday. Sounds good. Probably not sure if that's amazing alternate for us. How is Nancy? She's well. She met Dan. No, so it's.
Yeah, that's.
Good news. How are you? Good. Have a good day at work? What time do you start? Nate said, bad news, I'm sending Carol. And I said, Nate, do not put it on that. Say, I'm sending Carol. No, he said it's really packed. And I said, well, I'll take that.
That I'll keep my garden with it. It releases everything.
City on the sunflowers, and so I was trying to keep it water.
That's okay. You don't need to.
Pretty skinny on the bottom.
And that's just I'm talking to be community. I mean, that's.
You and
Tracy, you were doing it in the train.
Like that.
Not a great day as well.
No,
I said that. I said that. I mean,
if there was an excuse, please call.
Oh, yeah. I drove by on Facebook. I'm not wearing this year's shirt because I'm afraid if somebody had to like that, it's long for time to praise and yellow. I'm gonna bring Chuck up the OT with the shirt. Hey, there you go, you got two sides. Yeah. Great to see you. Okay. Doing good.
All right, we'll call the August Town Employees Committee Council meeting to order. The first item of routine business is the adoption of the agenda. There is a, excuse me, request to pull the vacancy policy, which is number 8, under consent out. Are there any further amendments or adjustments to the consent agenda?
I requested fourth quarter financials be pulled out.
Okay.
So consent
any other, desire to pull anything out of consent? Hearing none, is there a motion to adopt the agenda, consent agenda with the amendments of pulling out number 8, the vacancy policy, and number 1, the fourth quarter financials? All right, that motion is from Councilman Green. Is there a second? Second from Councilman Thomas. Further questions or discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. All right, the agenda is adopted with the amended consent agenda. Let me make a note of that. Okay. Let's see, Little League, I don't see Daniel or Tripp. So we'll move on. Mr. Patchett, an update for us from the Small Business Center.
Good evening, council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I want to let you know a little bit of an update on what's going on with the Small Business Center office here in the town hall of Bowling Springs. With help from your town manager, we opened this satellite office in March. Thank you, Zach, for your help to get that going, because we've had some business going on over there in my office. I'll tell you about my office in a minute, which is the conference room next to the police chief's office, so I feel real safe. I'm not worried about anybody bothering me. We now have a Small Business Center contact and promotion information up on the screen out here in the lobby area, so people know who I am and what they can do to contact me and what our Small Business Center is all about. I'll tell you about a couple of clients that I've worked with, but because of the Small Business Center network and the state focusing on confidentiality, I have to carefully share that information with you. First client had some challenges that really just struggled, but we could not satisfactorily address all the challenges, and unfortunately, that client hadn't been able to continue the business. Another client just started a business some months before I got here and needed some marketing assistance so people would know they were there and know they were in business. So I met with the client and the Small Business Center marketing counselor and was able to help the client get information about marketing their business, and they're now moving forward with success. Another one is a client that I'm working with even today. They're developing a business plan that will require some significant financing to purchase some heavy-duty equipment. Probably be several months in this process before they can actually go into business and start operating. We reviewed the business plan with that client a couple of weeks ago and made some recommendations of tweaking it a little bit. And when I say we, I tell every client that comes in my office, I do not have all the answers. So she'll help you find them. I'm just not smart enough to know everything. So my business plan counselor is a former employee at Cleveland Community College. I'm sure Council Member Green will recognize Becky Sain's name. She is the one that looks over business plans after I have worked with the client and worked very carefully to get the client the information that they should have on a business plan, and I think it's just right. And she'll cut it to pieces. She'll tear it up. And I love that about her, because she reads the business plan as if she's the person that we're trying to sell the business plan to. So making progress on that business plan, but we're not quite there yet, but he's working hard at it, and I'm having a good time with the clients that are here, and I'm hoping to get some more. Any questions for you about what's going on with the Small Business Center here? Thank you, Zach, for helping me get the office. Thank you, Council.
Thanks, sir.
All right, Ms. Bruce from Gardner-Webb University with an update.
Good evening. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. Obviously, I'm not Nate. I know that's who you're used to, but there's a lot to do for today. Just wanted to share some things that have been happening at Gardner-Webb. There's been a lot of activity over the summer. Spangler Stadium, if you have not had the opportunity to see it, has got new turf. It looks amazing. Check it out. It's great. Matter of fact, it's just in time for this weekend. On Friday, Jamboree will be held at Gardner Webb again. Now, I haven't been here to witness Jamboree, so I can't really tell you how big this crowd is, but what I've heard is it's typically 8 to 10,000 people. Capacity of the stadium is 9,000, so we're looking forward to a full house and having everybody back on campus. Also, the LYCC Arena. If you've been by and heard the sounds of saws, they're cutting the floor out and are moving and putting in the new floor, so that'll be ready for basketball season. So that's coming up as well. Also over the summer, renovations on several of our dorm buildings, between all of the camps that we've hosted. They've been able to squeeze all those renovations in, so they'll be ready for students. Students are returning to campus August the 16th. Also on the 16th, Victory Day. And this is the second year we've hosted that in concert with the Cleveland County Special Olympics. So we are inviting those with special needs to come and play football with our team, cheer with our cheerleaders, march with the band, and would love the community support. So join us for those things. For businesses in the area, we're still securing athletic and event sponsorships for this academic year, so feel free to share that information. And if you haven't heard the news, we just got a federal grant for the College of Health Science, so that'll help that school there to the tune of $2.16 million.
Awesome.
So, any questions I can answer for you, gentlemen?
Thank you very much.
All good news and excited to be here. Thank you.
Is there anyone that would like to comment on anything that's not on the agenda? All right, moving on, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt consent agenda.
Is there a second? I'm sorry, that was Councilman Wood. Second, Councilman Green. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor of adopting the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Vote likewise, and the consent agenda is adopted, which will take us to regular business and the amended regular business. We will begin with the vacancy policy, and then we'll follow that with the fourth quarter financials. Mr. Parker?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I have to scroll on my screen. Let's see here, vacancy policy. So, a few years ago, I think it was 2022, when I remember now, I've been in trouble. Yes, so in 2022, staff had proposed a policy to outline a framework for how you all want us on the staff side to respond when there is a vacancy. That policy that you were presented was tailored towards a council person vacancy. What we've done is we looked at it, we retooled it, and the one that you've got in front of you now is more generalizable. And so it would just be a council policy that we would keep in the council policy manual over here at the clerk desk. And it outlines the general parameters for how we would fill these vacancies. That's on page 44 of your agenda. And so it's got the first article there, which just explains the policy, but then the second article is vacancies on the council. So that first section is requirements for service. All of those things are set out in either the North Carolina Constitution or in North Carolina General Statute 160A-63. And so it says all applicants must be a resident and registered voter of the town and must be at least 21 years old. And then if the term of office expires, those portions that are quoted, that comes directly from the statutory language, and so I'm not going to read those unless we need to, just because it can get a little bit technical. Section 2 is the part I think where we probably want to pick up to discuss. It goes through the process of filling a vacancy. Other municipalities have these processes in place. I think my advice to you, and Mr. Schwebe, feel free to get on the legal side and chime in. I would think that you probably would not want to say, we are going to do X, Y, or Z. What I mean by that is, you don't, I would imagine, you probably wouldn't wanna say, if there are 4 seats and 4 people run, then there's a vacancy, we're gonna pick number 5. Does that make sense? That's just me. I don't know if, you can certainly do that. This is one of those areas, we've talked before about things where you all govern the affairs of the council. This is one of those times where, as long as it is within the statutory and constitutional framework, 21, they have to live here, they have to be a registered voter here, which I think is a weird one for folks. As long as they meet that, they're in that box, you have a wide range of, you can, as long as you don't discriminate because of their protected class, you can pretty much color in that box however you want to. You can pick people you like or not, or whatever else. So you have a wide berth. I think this just helps us on the staff side know that if there is a vacancy, what are we gonna do? And so that's where section 2 starts. The manager's gonna let you know in writing, and then, we will advertise on the website, the newsletter, the utility bill, the Facebook account. There was a discussion in the last iteration of this policy that maybe we would advertise it in the newspaper. I did remove that. I don't know that we wanna keep that in there. We certainly can. And then it talks about submitting applications using the town's RMS, which is how we currently do that for the planning board. So we put out, on Facebook, and it says, hey, if you wanna join a town board, click on this link, fill out this application. That's the record management system that we use. And so then it just says they would all come to me. I would look at them, make sure that they are 21, that they live in town, and that they're a registered voter. I would compile those and send them to you in a batch. And I would send you the ones that don't meet those qualifications and just say, hello, these people, these are the ones who met, these are the ones who didn't because they weren't 21 or whatever the reason is. And then it says in section 4, council may hold interviews so long as they're held in open session. They may be conducted during any meetings of the council pursuant to the general statutes. May allow for small group meetings. You can do questionnaires. The big thing is, as long as the process is consistent and as long as the process complies with the open meetings laws, and the open meetings law, the closed session law actually explicitly says you cannot fill vacancies on the governing board in closed session. So it calls that out as you cannot do this. Is that the section where we had the most questions? There's additional articles in here. So there's Article 3, which outlines what is our current process for filling vacancies on the planning board. That's in number 40, that's on page 46. So it goes through what we currently do for planning board vacancies. It mirrors the process I have just outlined for you all, with the exception of, in the planning board vacancy, we submit that to the Board of Planning and Adjustment for their recommendation. And then they look at all that information, just like what happened this month, and then you all get a copy of those resumes and a letter from the chairman indicating what action the planning board took. And then the final one is any other vacancies on town boards, and it just says they're appointed by the council. Each candidate needs to submit an application and resume to you guys so you can look at it and see who they are. And that's a catch-all in case there are other boards like the TDA that exists currently. When you are submitting, when we're looking at those, the folks that sit on that 7-member board, other boards that you may establish, they would all be covered underneath that last section. And I am happy to answer questions as they arise, Mr. Mayor. Any questions for the manager?
I've got a question, it pertains to both of the vacancies, both the council and the planning board, and it's both would be the reviewing of applications, which is section 4. In both, section 4 in both. And my question is, it says the council may hold interviews, or the Board of Planning and Adjustment may hold interviews. It doesn't say they're required to hold interviews. But all this to be done in open, so I'm just wondering if we can't meet privately, why we wouldn't require that we do interviews in open rather than may. Why is that word there, may?
So, in the past, as we've looked through, sometimes, so all of these interviews are in open session.
Okay, I get that.
It's just that sometimes council has elected to do interviews, other times, either because of a lack of applicants or for whatever reason, there were not interviews, is my understanding, as we reviewed it. And so it's saying at your discretion, it gives you the maximum amount of flexibility. And that's really what the policy is designed to do, is to give you the maximum amount of flexibility while also helping staff know what our immediate actions are. So for instance, Councilmember Wood, if you decided and you said, okay, I'm done tonight, I would know immediately that I needed to advertise the vacancy on the town's website, advertise it in the newsletter or utility bill, and on our Facebook account, because you all would have told me in this policy to do that as my initial reaction to a vacancy. Does that make sense? I wouldn't have to wait until another month to another meeting. So that's really the purpose of it. The rest of it tries to maintain the amount of flexibility that you all, the maximum amount of flexibility for the board. You can, you can't expand your flexibility, but you can narrow that at your discretion. So if you decided we want to hold interviews and so you want to change that if council decided, instead of the council may, you all wanted to say the council shall hold interviews. That certainly is within your power. It just reduces your flexibility, because at that point, even if there is one applicant, you are requiring yourself to hold an interview. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but later on in the meeting, you'll know why I've asked this question.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that, if you've got 5 applicants for 2 positions and 1 or 2 may show up for a meeting and are somewhat interviewed and the others don't show up and are not interviewed, and those that didn't show up weren't selected, then, I mean, I get it, if you've got 2 openings and you've got 2 positions, 2 people that are qualified, that's fine, you don't have to interview them. But if you've got the overage amount of people to apply for the position, then I feel like the applicants owed the right that these candidates should be interviewed. So I don't know how to put that, but I don't think may should be the word if there's 5 applicants for 2 positions. Just saying.
I agree with that, actually. But I'm curious, if this policy is adopted, could not council with 3 votes still select someone that doesn't put an application in?
Yep.
I mean, this is not really a binding policy.
Not in any way at all. It really
This is a
is.
framework.
It's for me, not you, honestly.
Ultimately, 3 council members will decide who fills the vacancy.
Yeah, and this just tells me what to do and helps me and Tracy on our side, but,
And this helps this helps also with public perception for how the process unfolds. I mean, it is a political protection against, or for the council in the selection, but ultimately, 3 council members can
Will
choose
decide.
whoever they want, assuming they're 21, which I've been misinforming my civic students for a long time. I thought you only had to be 18. But yeah, so as long as those 3 criteria are met, but this policy is a guideline, it's a framework.
Yes.
It's protection in some ways.
and it is filed with that council policy and procedure manual that we looked at, so a majority of the board could meet at any moment and rip that thing up. Because it's in that category of things where you're governing yourself.
But if
Your
the
actions.
majority of the board meets, they have to meet in public.
Yeah, I just mean, we could meet next month and you could say, throw this thing out, and 3 of you say yes, then it's gone. It's in that section of things.
Yeah, and
descent in art and this, I first came on board in 1999, and I can only remember 2 times this happening where we had to exercise this, where we selected somebody. And this will be the 3rd time in this next election coming up. And I don't know that we need a policy for the board specifically. Planning and zoning, that's a different function, I think, of the town at different times. But I also worry just like, you know, Daniel mentioned the political side of it, it could also be one of those things where they said, well, the manager selected the next person. And the manager works for the board, so it could be spun that way, that you were handpicking somebody that you could control or otherwise dictate what you want to have done. So I think it's a sort of a two-sided sword there, that if it is about keeping the politics out of it, it could also be seen that the manager has too much power in selecting those people. Even though it would come to the board, I mean, you could still choose to leave somebody off. So in my opinion, I don't know that we need this to happen. I mean, we have worked through this a couple of times already as far as the council portion of it. But that's just my opinion. In the long run, if it's a framework, it can be changed at any point. That's understandable too, but I'm sort of opposed to making policy just for making policy's sake.
And we can certainly, this is a draft until you all decide it's not a draft anymore. So, to the extent that you're interested, even if we wanted to start at section 3, we could strike sections 3, 4, 5, 6, if that's what you all wanted to do. And that would just tell me and Tracy the process for filling a vacancy and how we notify you, and then how we advertise the vacancy. I think that is what, in the past, there seemed to be discussion about how long are we gonna advertise, where are we gonna advertise. I will say, that's been several years ago, so I think, I can remember there being a vacancy on the Cleveland County School Board, and I can't remember, I wanna say they left it open for 2 months and they solicited applications. Of course, we could always have people send those to Mr. Schweppe. I'm sure he would.
I do then?
Yeah, then he can just send them to you all. So we could certainly do that. But I'm open to whatever. My thought was it may be easier to do it now than when the time comes. You all will have to tell me what to do at that point. Does that make sense? So at this point, it's still a hypothetical.
So here's my contention on the May part. If we're gonna hold interviews, say we are,
Right.
then all eligible applicants should be present at the meeting that we're going to do this. In other
They
words,
should be given the opportunity to be present.
right, but they should at least be told we're having a meeting, and you can be here, but that's what I'm saying, they should at least be given the opportunity to know that we're gonna review this process tonight.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna restate that to make sure that I understand.
Okay.
So, assuming that you weren't on the board, maybe Tracy was at that spot, and she resigns, and so you apply, then, at the point that she has resigned, and that seat's open, the council will then decide how you are gonna treat filling that vacancy. And that rule must be applied uniformly
Right.
to every applicant for that
Okay.
seat.
Perfect.
So where it says may, it's talking about they may interview every candidate for that seat, or they may not interview every candidate. But if you all were to solicit one interview, you would be required to interview every applicant for
Okay.
that seat. Because it,
Okay.
We
yes.
couldn't pick and choose, we'd have to do it one way.
Right, and that's where the last clause, so long as the process is consistent amongst all applicants.
Okay.
Because we have to treat everybody equally.
I think that's my point.
Do there have to be applicants? Just in the strict sense of what is required of council, that isn't required either. Council can know who.
Yeah, you can pick whoever you want.
So
Again, yeah, within that framework, yeah.
I don't know how much I should spend on this tonight anyway, but I can say pretty much what I want now. Nice. But I mean, I think that it is at least, for me, I think it's at least worth tabling, if not just not adopting, because there's no need to decide now. We don't know what the candidates are gonna be. Like, I think in December, when this time comes, then we'll have a sense of, I mean, there are 3 candidates for 2 spots, that's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And so, maybe the third candidate, whichever gentleman that is the obvious choice. And maybe he isn't, but at that point, you'll know more about where you stand and who else might be involved in.
Might be willing to serve.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's just my own, I don't get a vote in this, but, that's my own,
And you're working under your own policy guidelines, or your own guidelines for filling the vacancy for like planning and zoning and all that now.
yes.
This would just really codify that process,
Yes, so that the next time there's a vacancy on the planning board.
or TDA.
Yeah.
Because really, we
Tracy
have
says-
3 boards working now.
Right, and Tracy says, what did we do? Or I say, Tracy, what did we do last time? And she says, oh, let me try to remember, and I'm like, well,
Or she wasn't here.
well, yeah, that's exactly right. And we weren't here, and we've done different things before, so that this way I can point and say, oh, this is what they want us to do. Again, if we can take the council portion out of this completely, if you all want to, we could drop out that Article 2. We could drop that whole part, and just where Article 3 is, make that the new Article 2. And so it would only cover planning, vacancies on the Board of Planning and Adjustment, and vacancies on other boards. And we could add a not town council. But to the mayor's point, if at any moment you decided you wanted to appoint someone who did not apply, or didn't fill out an application, or didn't submit a resume, you would just motion to appoint, Ron Wood, to suspend the rules and appoint Ron Wood. And as long as 3 of you said yes, then that's what would happen.
If Ron said yes.
If, assuming that Ron signed on to it.
Well, my whole thing about that is the public perception. If we had 4 applicants and then the council came up, somebody from council said, I recommend, Zach Parker to fill this unexpired position, and you weren't even an applicant or a candidate, and then 3 council members voted on Zach Parker, just saying, then I wonder how the town, perception would be in that case. I don't know if I would really want to be a party to that.
We've experienced this several times. Mayor Dixon, she was Tanya Gavin's when you became mayor, we had that vacancy, so it's not something that should be new to us. And I've not heard anybody complain about the way we did it.
Right. I think I believe I replaced Tanya. I believe I replaced Mary Ruth.
Yeah,
I did.
It was at 21.
Yeah.
Caleb Edwards replaced the mayor.
yeah.
And I think Councilman Ellis, when you were elected mayor, I don't remember who.
Jimmy Beason.
Jimmy Beason.
And Jim Beason was, there was 3 of us around that time.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, and being one of the candidates for reelection this time, I think we have 3 great opportunities with Pat Litton, me, and with Mr. Davis, who was final. I would be confident in all 3 of those. And so that's why I'm questioning, like, how does this work out? And, I had confidence in those boards before to resolve those things. I have complete confidence now, and like I said, win or lose, 3 strong candidates, and I don't know if we need a process necessarily for the board.
And that's gonna be 3 out of 4.
And this is totally off.
Yeah, that's not 3 out of 5. That's 3 out of 4.
Sometimes, this is, I had nothing in mind, I don't have anybody in mind, it's just something I thought of. Sometimes somebody running may give you a reason why you don't want to appoint them. Somebody runs and they get, 500 voters and they get 20 votes. To me, that says the public didn't want that person. Now, if you have 500 votes and somebody gets 300, gets a respectable number, then that tends to indicate, that would be more credible to me than somebody who ran, but either they didn't campaign some reason they didn't get enough votes. So to me, that would be, could be reason for appointing them or not appointing them.
Exactly.
But I think, since I've been on the board, I've been okay with the way we've done it. And we did have more applicants than when we appointed Caleb Edwards. They just didn't show up. Am I wrong?
They didn't follow the process
Yeah.
as it was listed,
Had laid down, yeah.
best I remember.
I was not here.
No, you weren't.
I don't remember. In terms of, the process in general, there will be 4 council members deciding. Will the mayor, the future mayor, be a tiebreaker in that? I can't remember if that, is a tiebreaker situation or if it had to be 3 out of 4.
I think we voted, we continued voting until it was a unanimous vote.
The mayor, well, this is a legal question, he can only vote either to affirm or not. Is that, he can vote in yes or no, but I don't think that you can vote, is that, John?
Yeah, I think so, I think what Marty just said is what,
Yeah, if it was 2-2, then we would vote again.
yeah.
We keep voting until there was a clear winner, and that's the way the statutes were then.
My recollection is that the mayor can only vote in the positive or negative, not to select among equal candidates or equal options. That it's a yes or a no.
That's why they kept kind of, the voting process until,
So you could, in theory, you all did that in unison, all of your heads moved at the same time. Well, I mean, they could in theory say, we want Ron Wood, and it'd be 2-2, and the mayor passed the tie-breaking vote. What we could not do is say, do we want Ron Wood or Pat Litton? And it'd be 2 for Ron, 2 for Councilman Litton, and the mayor to pick, because that's not a yes or no, that's Ron or Pat. And that is my understanding.
I still don't think the mayor
That seems the same thing.
breaks the tie. I think in this circumstance, it would have to be a continued vote until either one of the council members conceded to say, that was the statutory guidelines we have.
and I'm trying to think I'm getting confused myself now because I think what I'm kind of leaning toward, maybe what Zach said, I think, this is anecdotal because it's not in Bowling Springs, but City of Shelby recently had a board opening on one of their board, not the council, but a board, and they voted, they had multiple candidates, and in that situation, the mayor did break a tie, but maybe their policy is different, but the mayor still broke a tie on an open board seat, on the committee, I don't know what board it was,
But to me, to Zach's point, it would make sense that if Ron Wood is the only candidate, and 2 vote for him and 2 vote against him, then that would be him breaking that tie. But if it's Ron or Pat, that's an entirely different situation.
yeah, I think that's what Mr. Parker was just saying.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
That's what Zach is saying.
Yeah. So that's what I'm leaning.
That's a yes or no.
Is it,
I'm
we
gonna
could,
table.
is it,
Table.
okay, there's a motion to table the vacancy policy, is there a second? Second, are there any further discussion, questions, or
Good discussion.
comments? It was a good discussion.
Until next time.
Okay, so all those in favor, do we have to vote, we vote to table?
Yes, sir.
All those in favor of voting to table, say aye.
Is that until next month? Or
I say
time to be determined?
indefinitely.
You know, a question that came up during our discussion. I remember once when this happened, what happened when the mayor vacates? You know, I remember once, a long time ago, Buddy McDaniel was our mayor, playing a pickup basketball game at Gardner River, died on the court. I just wondered, how does the process work for replacing the mayor?
The town of Spindale just went through this, because their mayor, the town of Spindale, Mickey Bland, just passed away. And so the mayor pro tem does not, the simple way to put it is the mayor pro tem becomes mayor. But in actuality, they serve as acting mayor, but maintain their vote until such time as either they ascend to the office of mayor or a new mayor is appointed by the board.
So the board actually would appoint a mayor?
I think the statutory language allows the mayor pro tem to claim it, but the board would need, the board does have to weigh in to pick somebody. That's happened, that's happened here before, when, I think former mayor, Hamrick, when he initially, I'm looking at you, Councilman Ellis, because,
Yeah, he
would have
chose
been,
not to run again.
He just didn't.
No, he just decided not to bring it in.
I thought it, before him, who was on here before him? Who was the mayor prior to?
Buddy McDaniel.
Buddy McDaniel.
Okay, so that's what, we're talking about the same, well, that's, I'm thinking that's how Mayor Henrik became mayor.
Could
was-
be, I just don't, I didn't recall, I just.
All right, fourth quarter financials.
Yes, sir. Fourth quarter financials, hold on, I'm in the wrong spot, not, the financials. Okay, they're right here, I got it, I'm ready, sorry. Questions on the fourth quarter financials, anything I can't ask, we'll put Miss Allen on the spot.
I had two, one question and one, I guess, no.
Okay.
And I guess it's kind of got away from me over the previous quarters, but looking at the water sewer fund revenue, Lattimore sewer charges pretty exceed budget by $33,000. What drove that up?
The short answer for that question is not the good answer, but it's that we always under budget that line. We have increased that line this year because we saw the consistent trend over multiple years that we were bringing in more revenue than we had initially budgeted in the Lattimore system. So we've increased that this year. I would go off the cuff to say to $90,000, but I'm gonna check. I had it right here in front of me.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Cause at the other side of it, the expenses, I mean, we're pretty much, actuals right at 54,000, and budget's 55, so I mean, we're pretty much got that nailed down.
Yes, sir. We pinpoint their expenses. I'll lovingly describe the type of accounting as I do. I say I horseshoe and Ms. Allen throws darts. But, she has thrown a dart and bullseyed the Lattimore system. It's because the salary and wage that you see reflected there, under Lattimore sewer line, I apologize, I don't know what page of your agenda this is on, because this is my copy, so it's got highlights. 10 on your
Well,
agenda.
it's 10 on the budget page, I don't know if that's the actual total page number.
But the, so the Lattimore sewer line, the only thing in that department, the only expense is 1/2 of a salary for the wastewater treatment plant superintendent and the utilities for the town of Lattimore's pump stations. So that's the only thing they are charged for. So it's 1/2 of Todd's salary and those utilities. Now that utility number shakes out to $10 a month. So their monthly bill for the availability rate is $42. 32 of that is for collection services and maintenance. 10 of that is for utility bills. As an example, we just signed a $460 check last week that was for repairs on the Lattimore system. But that will not be expensed to this portion of the budget. It will be expensed to the top section there where it's just sewer department. Because we don't expense out and itemize out what's different between, or what expenses are for the Lattimore system versus our system. We don't send them any additional bills, for anything unless it is a capital outlay item valued at greater than $5,000, because we can't buy capital for their system. So, they just spent $20,000 on new Graco alarms for their pump stations, as an example. And we can't purchase that because it's a capital outlay item. We can't purchase capital for that system.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Other questions or comments about the financials?
The water sewer revenue, the water sewer, net position overall is slimmer than it typically would be. That's because, as Ms. Allen noted there in the staff report, we've got a little over $100,000 worth of, reimbursable grants that have not come in yet. But the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality changed their login and their reporting information. But, as of today, Tracy can now log in to submit our receipts for our 52 and 62 respectively $1,000 from the state. So that'll go back, 'cause that'll be last fiscal year, so that'll bring that number up.
Further questions, comments on the financials? There's no action needed here.
No, sir.
All right, moving on, to budget amendments, budget amendment ordinance, regarding the whole property. Mr. Parker.
Yes, sir. So here you have got, this is page 57 of your agenda packet. What you have got here is, on 57, you've got that staff report, and it shows you a chart, so that you can see where we are planning to take the money that we are asking you to appropriate today to purchase the whole property. We have already paid $50,000. We paid $50,000 out of our general fund, last year. And that was the earnest money the earnest money. We're currently planning to close on this property at the end of August. So you've got here where it's, 123, 25, 27, and 31, are all going to be purchased with general fund money. The reason for that is that we are planning to use that for future park expansion, and that's a general fund activity. The south side, of the East Branch property acquisition, at 122, 124, and 130, we're proposing that we do a reserve appropriation, to cover the cost there, and that is because, we are gonna use that for potentially the Public Works building, that we're planning to put down there. So, as you move on to 58, you will see where Ms. Allen's prepared, our budget amendment. Oh, I'm sorry, 59 is your budget amendment for that. And then on page 60, you have a budget amendment that looks kind of funky. And it looks weird because typically you don't see these. These are internal budget amendments. And it's internal because this revenue, or this expense item already exists. We're requesting that you, transfer the $190,000 out of our operating budget's contingency line and use that money, to purchase, let's see which parcel it is, to purchase 123 East Branch Avenue. So rather than taking that $190,000 out of fund balance, we would use the contingency funds to cover that one. And then we would use fund balance appropriations to cover, the 182,500, the 110, and then the 5,000. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
So when I looked at that, I came up with, I thought I saw $240,000 in contingency. I thought it was 190 in one line and 50 in another.
There is 190 in the contingency line. So the 240,000 that we spoke about during the budget season, which
Right.
equated to 5 pennies, give or take, we can't put more than 5% in contingency. So the remainder of those funds are, in that, on the same page of the budget sheet. They're under special projects, and then I wanna say that there's $10,000 in downtown enhancement.
Okay.
So
That's the piece I missed.
Yes, sir.
But that's what we're taking the 190 from.
The 190 would come from contingency. It leaves that 10,000 and that other, special project funding, and my thought behind that was, if we run into some cost, overruns with the courtyard or with the South Main Street project, that would be a low hanging roughly $40,000 to $50,000 we could immediately pull into the capital project ordinance.
Okay, and then the second part of it is the 414,000 estimated that would go into fund balance. You're gonna spend 297.5 out of that.
Yes, is that that bottom number from last year? Yes, sir. So that, we would spend 297 of that, and the lion's share of that 414,000 is ARPA money that's running through. So we're proposing we just pull, that money back out and purpose it for this. If we were, able to, had we closed on these last year, we would have likely, just used that ARPA money at that point to do it. Not that it's called ARPA anymore, now it's just called regular revenue, but,
Right. So that leaves us 60,000 for contingency in this year's budget, and an estimated 116.5 that we may add to fund balance.
yes, sir.
And then you went in there and taken out the grant money and some other things, so that we may have a better percentage ratio on fund balance.
Yes, sir. And that's where, so, yes, and again, this 414.9, I think, is an estimate from,
Right.
you know, the best, we won't know those numbers until we get our audit done. But I think, I agree, and that's why, Ms. Allen actually had a conversation today about grants, and about the importance of pulling grant funds, out of the operating budget, because they're easier to manage, and our new finance software actually has a grant and capital management. It has a fancy name like everything does, but it manages those differently, so it'll actually make it easier to account for those things. You all got a copy, I'm thinking, of the grant project fund. It looks different than the other.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yes, it looks different. So there's a grant project fund and the capital project fund. So the grant one just says FEMA everywhere. And, the capital project fund has two sections. So it's got a section that's South Main and Courtyard, South Main Street and Courtyard, and then the bottom part is Wall Avenue and Sewer. So the new software that we're switching to, Springbrook, has an easier, more user-friendly way of managing those types of funds. And then, but to your point about fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, it is certainly the case that we wanna watch that number. Withdrawing from our fund balance in the current fiscal year is going to tighten that number. So it would contract, because we are now taking fund balance to apply, you know, so when we get our audit back, we would expect what was 34 to go up, because we're putting 400,000 back, and so that number's gotten larger. But because we're taking from fund balance now, the inverse is true. So it will likely, that 34 number, wherever, let's assume that we got to 38, it's gonna come back down for fiscal year 25-26. Assuming we spend all of the other money like we plan to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because we're fiddling with the denominator.
But basically, if we drop below that percentage, we get a letter.
We write a letter that says, well, Rhonda writes a letter that
We
says, we're
explain
sorry.
why we're at that percentage, and then we're working to try to
Yes.
turn, because we've had a negative sort of trajectory on that before, so
Yes.
we've been trying to increase that now, so.
And that number's based on the size of your unit. So like counties, their percentage is 16. It's just because of the size of our unit. This is where they come up with 34.
Other questions on total property budget amendment? If not, is there a desire of the council?
Budget amendment be approved.
There is a motion that the budget amendment be approved from Councilman Green. Is there a second from Councilman Thomas? Further discussion or questions?
I think it's a good move, and I believe we can safely afford it.
And it'll benefit the town for a long-term plan that we've been talking about, capital improvement. I agree.
All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Carries unanimously. All right, next is the TVA resolution. Basically taking it down from 7 to 3. Is that?
Yes, sir.
This one? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
You go ahead with it.
So we, our current GDA, is seven members plus, me, Miss Allen, and Councilman Green. And, this can get very technical very quickly. 1/3 of the members of the TDA are from entities that generate occupancy tax revenues. Okay, so that's 1/3 of it. Half of them have to be in the business of promoting travel and tourism in Boiling Springs. Then to spend the funds, 2/3 of the money has to be used for promotion of travel and tourism in Boiling Springs. 1/3 can be used for tourism-related expenditures, including capital outlay. So with that as the statutory the statutory framework, 7's a weird number because it doesn't, half of 7 and 1/3 of 7 are weird, funky numbers. We have a really hard time getting a quorum out of the TDA. By statute, Rhonda is their finance officer, and so, they are audited as part of the town. There are times when, the TDA makes decisions, and, Rhonda and I are charged with signing the check. And that is, I will say that it's gotten better. But, if 4 of them vote for something, Rhonda and I are legally required to sign that check. And then Mary Grace, when she does our audit, determines, I guess, somehow if it's a tourism-related expenditure or if it is, promotion of travel and tourism. So when we were doing our charter amendment, we had discussed having a model like what the city of Shelby has, where their town, their city council appropriates the occupancy tax money into a department, just like our solid waste department. And then you just show, okay, this is the money coming in, and we're spending it on this, and it's easy. Well, the General Assembly won't let us do that, because it makes them nervous, because they think we're trying to use it for non-tourism related things. So, Kings Mountain, passed an ordinance just like this one, except it had 5 members, not 2. And their numbers, so their numbers are not the same, because there's no uniformity. The 2/3, 1/3 part, always the same. But the 1/3 and half of the board members depends on the unit. So there is no standard across the state. And so they did 5 members instead of 3. What I've proposed in this ordinance is that we would take our current board of 7, reduce it to 3, and those 3, 1/3 of which have to be from the hotel. So that would be Sanjay Patel, who's the current owner of the American, now University Inn. And then the other 2, I would be one of those, as long as you all are willing to amend my job description to say that part of my job is promoting travel and tourism in Boiling Springs. The other would be our town planner, whose job description I have already amended to say that his job is to promote travel and tourism in Boiling Springs, because I don't know why it wouldn't be. And so, whether you pass this or not, that job description's already been amended, and it's gonna say that. So Kings Mountain did this, they put their manager on theirs. The reason why I really don't know that, the reason why I wanted it to be 3 was so that, because as soon as we go to 4, there needs to be 2 people from the hotel. Because 1/4 is not 1/3. And so that's why I wanted to keep it at 3.
Any questions? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, but I'm open to feedback, open to suggestions, I can throw this all away, completely open to the board.
Questions or comments on the TDA? No, adjustment.
I have a comment, you know, I do serve on the board, and how will the current members be notified that they are no longer on the board?
So,
Because, I mean, some of them are very, you know, like Jackie Bridges, Gardner Webb, and, Shipley,
yes,
and, Tyler from the campground.
right.
How will they be notified that,
In as gingerly a way as, Tracy can say it. We'll do it nicely, and we'll explain it to them, and I'm not opposed to them remaining as an advisory member, or in some kind of advisory capacity. I think so Ms. Sibley Newton, Jackie, used to be the county travel and tourism director, she's actually rotating off. While we greatly appreciate and are respectful and love our newfound Lossing relationship with the university, they don't pay the occupancy tax. And so they are a recipient of the occupancy tax revenues because they receive grants. They have historically not complied with the guidelines of those grants and have still received the revenues despite not proving or not being willing to provide us with the information saying they comply with the law. And I really like the Broad River Campground. It is a direct competitor with our TDA, because if you stay at the Broad River Campground, your occupancy tax goes to Cleveland County, not to Boiling Springs TDA.
and I understand all that, that doesn't affect the people.
Oh, that's exactly right.
Jackie doesn't have anything to do with
Right,
what Gardner Webb does.
right. And she's
My
very,
only concern is them as people, as a person.
right,
personally.
right.
I just think Howard and Hamlin needs to be,
Gingerly with kid gloves and in a respectful way that we thank them for their service. And we have some great people on our TDA. It's not that they are,
do any of them have any idea that we're voting on this tonight?
no, sir, I did not want to unnecessarily alarm them. But we can table it if that's,
And I'm not opposed to that either, I just wanna be sure that we don't just send them a note and say, hey, we don't need you anymore.
right.
Sure, and I didn't mean that the way it sounded, I mean.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, so, you know, Jackie, Kim Duran, the Greenway director's on the board. She's the president of the board and has been since its inception, or the chairwoman of the board and has been since its inception in 2007. Jackie's been on there since then. Tyler Watts, I'm trying to think of the other people.
Shadyside Director.
Angie Clark, Zach Buff from Shadyside. The other issue is, so they follow roughly the same rules you all do in terms of public meetings and budgets. So we have a hard time wrangling them all in here to get them to a budget amendment. You know, we have a tough time getting a quorum. I think, you know, they have done some work in the past where they've met off-site for their official meeting. Those have to be noticed. You know, they fall under the same open meetings laws that you all do, because it is a town board. And so that makes it a little bit difficult sometimes.
Some of that's, well, I better not say that, but, I mean, some of it's due to the leadership. You know, don't get notified when the meetings are, or stuff like that.
Yes.
And, but I think, I don't have any opposition to the changing it. It's just, it's what it is, I think that.
My preference was and remains that you all appropriate the money into a department like we wanted. This is kind of the runner-up to that. Is that we do this, we take this measure, and then we have a greater locus of control over the funding. it's not a significant, I mean, it's 20 grand a
Okay.
year. They have about $49,000 or $41,000 in their fund balance, I'll tell you after y'all.
Okay. I guess my only concern is if there's only 3 of you and 2 of you work for the town and you're his boss, the other person is kind of odd man out, potentially.
Yes. Potentially.
It's an awful small group,
It is,
and if I'm the guy that owns the motel and I'm generating all the money, but you two, the other 2 are telling them how it's gonna be spent,
do you know?
I'm a little concerned.
The hotel seat has been vacated and has not been, a representative from the hotel has not been to the meetings since we moved it in this building. Maybe once or twice. Rhonda, you go more frequently than I do.
Not since I've been.
Couldn't tell you when the last time has anybody from the hotels been at a meeting. It's been at least a year and a half.
Yes, they,
Since
but,
Walter worked there.
yeah, Walter was the last representative I remember coming, Walter Hoyle.
Right.
And the hotel in itself should not, cannot benefit directly from the occupancy tax. So it's designed to go to the town for promotional items. Shelby re-gifts theirs to the Uptown Shelby Association, to the Don Gibson Theater, and to the Earl Scruggs Center. And so that's why I think bringing it under, increasing the town's control over the money, it'll be used for things that better the town, rather than giving out, grants that are $5,000 or $7,000 and that kind of
Was
thing.
Mr. Patel interested in being a part of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions or comments?
And it is something like everything else, can be changed for that work.
Absolutely. And he did tell me when I spoke with him, I asked him if he was familiar with GDAs. He said he had heard of them, but the one in Shelby is not active and doesn't do anything. I did not say to him, well, it doesn't exist. They use the money for it, they pass the money on, but,
But that's the only generator of revenue for that.
We have-
correct? There's others.
we have, I wanna say 4, maybe 3, because they're Airbnbs. So an Airbnb generates occupancy tax revenue.
Okay. I didn't realize we had any.
We have 3 or 4, or 3 or 2, I can't remember the number, Isaac says 2.
Okay.
So, we
I
get
would
a,
normally search for an Airbnb.
no, we get an occupancy tax, Rhonda sees like an incoming sheet from the tax office, or from the Department of Revenue that says, here's your occupancy tax, and these are the entities that paid into it.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's something for sure.
Is there a motion on this issue or further discussion?
Make a motion to approve the establishment of chapter 32.2 by adopting that ordinance, right?
Okay. Alright, so there's a motion from Councilman Thomas on adopting the ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Litton. Further questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Alright, and then there's a follow-up to where we have to actually appoint 3 people. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So is there a motion to appoint Mr. Parker? Who are the rest of you?
Me, Mr. Cook, and Mr. Patel.
Right. I forgot you're assigned.
I hear that a lot. It's all right.
Is there a motion to appoint those 3?
I make that motion.
Alright, Councilman Thomas with the motion. Is there a second? Second from Councilman Wood. Further discussion, question on those appointments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed likewise, that is unanimous. I wanted to wait until that was done, but I'm hearing the ghost of my old man Larry Thomas saying, we don't want travel and tourism here anyway. Sorry, guys. Wanted to speak for the old man. Let's see here. Alright, final portion of regular business, reappointment, appointments to Board of Planning and Adjustment.
I need to do a motion to repeal that resolution.
I'm not sure. Which one?
Yeah, in that same action. Do we need a motion motion to
They-
repeal.
I think that, so the motion to repeal is included in that resolution. I'm looking to make sure I'm reading. Yep. Amendment to establishing, yep, right there in section 1, bottom of 64.
So nothing else needed, okay.
Yep, good,
Sorry.
good to go.
All right, so on to the Board of Planning and Adjustment, something that Councilman Wood has hinted at. I'll turn it over to Mr. Parker, and we can engage in discussion.
Yes, sir. So, the planning board, but the Board of Planning and Adjustment, the planning board for our purposes, we've got 3 vacancies. When we knew that we would have 1 vacancy back in, I'm gonna say April, we began the process of soliciting, potential applicants for the board. Mr. Daves had indicated that he was no longer able to serve because of personal work commitments. And so we began that process. Then in June, Mr. McWhorter indicated that he wanted to be reappointed to the board. And Mr. Edwards moved to South Carolina. So that opened a seat that we weren't expecting. So there are 2 seats to fill, well, there's 3 seats to fill. Mr. McWhorter's reapplied to go back into the board. And then we have Mr. Cuthbertson, Landon Cuthbertson, Danny Hip, Kent Listow, Bruce Putnam, and Will Stroop. And those individuals have applied to join the board. At their June meeting, the Board of Planning and Adjustment met, looked over the applications, and they have made a recommendation to you all, which is on page 67 of your agenda packet, and it's a letter from the new chairman of the planning board, Tom Bates. And you see that there, it's June 17th, where they are recommending Mr. Danny Hip and Mr. Kent Listow, and it talks about their full-time residence, and it gives a little bit of the background. We've also included the application materials that we received, so that you've got that there. You are in no way bound by the planning board's decision. You can appoint whoever you want to, applicant or not. So if you just want to pluck someone from your mind, and you just think, God, they would be great on the planning board, just pick them. You are not bound by this at all. It was my belief at least, that this was customary for filling these vacancies. As we looked back, that's what Tracy and I found. I'm open to other questions, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Question from council?
Yeah, I've got questions and comments on this, I guess. So there was 2 positions, and you had 5 candidates that applied for those 2 positions, basically, right?
Yes, sir.
And my question would be, I've looked at the resumes that's been sent in. My question would be to why Will Strapp was not selected, because if you look at he's the town planner of the town of Spindale. He's paid town planner.
Yes, sir.
So he knows all the ins and outs of what this job would entail, legalities, all this. I don't see any other applicants, in my opinion, that would better fill this position than Will, but he was not selected. So I guess I'm just at a loss for why, and looking at everything being equal, he stands out ahead and above the rest. He's a resident of Bowling Springs. His dad was a coach at baseball at Garden Webb for many years. I guess I don't understand this, and from what I understood was there were a couple of people that came to the planning board and maybe were at a meeting and maybe been interviewed a little bit somewhat, and that's the reason I was going to the may or should interview process, because Mr. Strapp was not at a meeting to be interviewed. So I guess I'm just at kind of a loss as to why he would have been the most likely person that, looking at these lists of candidates, that I would have selected. I'm not on the planning board, but this deals with town planning, and he is a paid town planner for Spindale. I guess.
So I had, so from the rough excerpt, because we record their meetings like we do yours. And so at that meeting, it was noted, when we got to this subject that Mr. Listo was here. And I'm quickly skimming through, he did address the board, sharing he'd been a resident of Bowling Springs for 3 years, retired from the military. And then there was a robust conversation about the two applicants. It was not a scheduled interview with him. Since he was in the audience, he got up to address the board. I want to say he was the only person in the audience. But he got up to address the board. And it's got here that, the board looked at those. So there were no comments regarding Mr. Cuthbertson. Mr. Hip had some comments from Mr. McWhorter, Ms. Hamrick indicating they had known him for a while. He had also, Mr. Hip had previously attended the June meeting of the town council, thinking he came for the purpose of seeing if he was on the agenda that evening for selection to the planning board. He didn't speak, but he was in the audience. Mr. Putnam, as Ms. Edwards says, was a good neighbor, and he was there. Mr. McWhorter also knows him. Mr. Listo, who was present at the meeting, apparently he's known by Ms. Edwards and Mr. Bates. They know him on a personal basis. And then Ms. Hemrick said that Mr. Stroop's role as a planner for the town of Spindale may have been a conflict of interest. And so Ms. Edwards inquired to me if it was a conflict for Mr. Stroop to serve on the board. I replied that there was no legal conflict, which I must say sounds exactly like something I would have said, so Tracy captured that precisely. And then Mr. Bates asked if the planning board was required to provide a reason as to why one applicant is recommended over another, and I told them there is not a requirement for that. They just look at them and they make their recommendations. Ms. Edwards did state she liked the idea of having someone with planning experience on the board, but she wondered about the potential conflict. I was looking on here to see if there was, I'm trying to give you some insight into their thinking. And then I have got I have the way that they voted, if that would be helpful. I'm serving at the pleasure. So, I don't know what would be helpful for you all in making determinations. I'm skimming through to see.
Unanimous recommendation from the board, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's part of how you voted then.
Yes, sir. I think it was discussed, the importance of having a mix of opinions, of expertise, and of personality on the board, but also a mix of, I don't know how to say it, longevity in the town, I guess. Because we've got some folks on there who are newer to town. We've got some folks like Catherine Hammer, who have been here for a couple of years, milling around. And so I think that's something they definitely talked about.
Bruce Butler probably been here longer than any of them.
Yeah, yes.
If that's a consideration.
Well, and they talk about the importance of having a wide view. So they like having folks who've lived here for a couple of years, who have lived here their whole lives, so that they can get a good, varying degree of perspectives. I'll also say that in the most kind of benign practitioner approach, it doesn't really matter what they want. They don't get to pick their own members. You're free to pick whoever you want. They don't appoint themselves. You pick who they are. So to that extreme, who cares what they want? Now, I don't know, Mr. DeVale's laughing because he's on the planning board. But I think, so to the extent that we want to deviate from their recommendation, there is nothing that, it is a recommendation. There's nothing that says you have to do what they say.
Other questions or comments on the issue?
I got some comments. One of my comments is, I'm really reluctant to go against a unanimous recommendation from the planning board, especially not as much as who they planning and, the Board of Planning and Adjustments is probably the most important board that we have. And having said that, myself, when I looked at this just something that went through my mind when I read the list, I was very disappointed in who they chose. Because I personally know four of the guys, and I know them well. But I don't know where, I don't let friendships or relationships or anything like that influence my thinking, because Will's a good friend, so is Bruce Button. Bruce probably a much dearer friend than Will, because I've known him much longer. So my thought process was, do I want them appointed just because I know them and because I like them, or because I think they'd be really good on the board? From what I know about them, personally, I would think they would be better, might be better than the ones they appointed. My part that I'm wrestling with is, if we don't pick, if we go some other way rather than the planning board, what kind of message does that send to the planning board about how much we value them, when they didn't even like who we picked? That's just thoughts off the top of my head.
I didn't really mean to stir this up, but I mean.
Well, I had thoughts about it before you brought it up.
But I'm a little different from other council members sometimes. I think most people agree, but I look at this and I listen to what they said. Well, they said that this guy was a good neighbor and this guy was a good person and this guy was that, which is all fine and good. But if you look at qualifications for somebody to be on this position, Will stands head and above the shoulders of everybody else on there. So, I mean, I just wonder if they really, I don't know. I just had a question about that, as far as qualifications and the best person for the job, or people for the job, and friendships and being a good neighbor and things like that. I don't know if that's really the qualifications you look for to fill a position on the planning board. That's just my opinion.
I don't think it is.
But it sounds like that's what was said when Manager Parker read the reasons that these people were selected.
I'm looking to see, I want to say that I think that there was a concern about time.
What?
His time, in being able to serve. Being able to get here by 5:30, because he works in Spindale, and I want to say that's true. But don't hold me to that, right? So that's why I hesitate to say it.
That would be something that if he's committed to the job, if he's committed to serving, he would get there.
If I may, if I was to go back and give you a verbatim, remember these minutes are an abbreviated version.
Absolutely.
If I was to give you a verbatim, I can tell you that the members that were at the meeting that time, all of them expressed a concern with the conflict of interest. Although Town Manager Parker did acknowledge that there was no legal for the conflict, that was a concern because of his role as planner of Spindale. And there was a concern also of,
What conflict of interest would there be?
There wouldn't, there's none.
Why would there be a conflict of interest in planning Spindale and planning Florence Springs? I can only see it being a benefit.
That's why I said there is no legal conflict, because there may be a conflict that.
I'm not speaking for or against the nominee, I just don't think that's relevant.
That's why I say legal conflict.
Also, don't think he's been a planner for very long. I mean, I know that's his current role, but it's not even a year, is it? Has he been a planner for very long?
He has not been
So,
for
I
very
mean,
long.
you know, that's his current role, but it's not as though he's a seasoned, experienced planner. And so there's all these different things. There's 5 people, council has to approve 3 of them. So if anybody wants to, we've got the unanimous, referral, I guess, from the Board of Adjustment. But there are other names, and certainly they can be put forward. I don't know
I
that.
would understand somebody brought up conflict of interest, and the others being not knowledgeable, how maybe they just kind of, even though Zach said not, in their minds, maybe that was, seed was already planted. But, and I would have no problem in, let's, I mean, hypothetically, let's just say we said, well, we think Will should be one of the two. Which one of the two is he?
Yeah, which one do we take off and put Will in the place of?
That's right.
Right.
So that's two situations that we have to address.
And I want to, just as a point of clarification, I've always prescribed to the belief that, I'm never short of an opinion, I think everybody in the room knows that. But in discussing applicants for, town-appointed positions, that is not in any way, mine to weigh in on.
Sure.
So these do not go with recommendations, we don't say this person or that person, we don't weigh in. Isaac doesn't, I don't, because that's not our job. Just like when, if there's a vacancy on council, we would not weigh in on those. So I think, just as a point there, these, staff doesn't make recommendations on who you all appoint to what board, when, where.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
As the two that are going to be appointed, do they know they were going to be appointed? Have they been informed that they would be appointed?
No, sir.
Recommended, I guess.
No, sir.
So they don't know,
No, sir.
which is good.
Okay. Tracy says that.
Well, the comment I have is just brief, that this is a good thing. I mean, it's been a problem in the past filling these positions on these boards, and we have really good candidates, it's sort of just like the election stuff's going on. We got really great people that step forward to say, I wanna be on this. And, so we see that as a positive, and whoever we choose, I hope that we will continue to, communicate with the other people and say, hey, listen, there'll be other opportunities, and, but our planning and zoning is really a huge undertaking now. I mean, we've looked at the ordinances, we're trying to consolidate things, and we're trying to move forward with respectful growth. So it's important that we consider these things, and, but it's a good problem to have, as much as it is a bad problem.
Yeah, it's a very good position to be in where we can be picky.
Another question I have, I think I know the answer to. We could assume the responsibility of appointing them without, we could take this over if we wanted to. We don't have to let the zoning, planning and board of adjustments choose who they want to recommend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The board could do that.
It is a professional courtesy that the board extends to the planning board. And you all extend to them the courtesy of allowing them to submit names. You're under no obligation to do what they say.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about, could we just, from here on out, could we just say the board will appoint?
Yeah. You all can, yes. Yes.
I personally, from what I think I know about it, would think that might be a good thing. You understand what I'm
Yes.
saying? We appoint the members of the planning and zoning board.
And just not take it to them.
But we want them to understand that we're gonna do it as deliberately as we
Yeah.
can.
Right. Yeah.
But, I wonder sometimes, and I should go to, I know we need to move on, I know sometimes I should go to these meetings, but I don't. But I wonder sometimes maybe if they, this is gonna sound like I'm throwing our horn here, but maybe they're not as deliberate as we are. Maybe it is more, and I wouldn't want to put Fred on the spot, because I know he's a very good member of that board. Maybe it's because they, well, like somebody said, he's my neighbor.
Yeah.
How much,
I think in the past, it has been a more casual board, in a sense that, the meetings and agendas come out, and, okay. They are, since I've worked here, and I served as a member of that board several years ago as well. I think I can tell a difference from when I served to the current board. They are, much more of a deliberative body. They heavily scrutinize. When we've just done some variance applications, we've done special use permits, and they have heavily scrutinized those to make sure.
I guarantee Tom Bates does.
Yeah,
I
Tom
don't have,
Bates,
I don't have any doubts about that part of the job. I think they're very deliberate about, you know, when an issue comes up, I think they're very deliberate about that. But I guess the only question I would have would be in just the appointing who's gonna be there. And I want to echo what Marty said, it's a good problem to have, because we've begged people. However we do it, we need to do it with, so that we don't shoot ourselves in the foot by saying, hey, I don't wanna serve on that board, because
they deliberate to the point that they get frustrated with me because the statute uses the word harmonious, and I can't define that for them, and that upsets Chairman Bates. He'll say, well, tell me what that means. I can't. It's ambiguous on purpose. But yes, sir. Anything,
Let's try to move forward, here. I know it's a tough problem, but, if anybody would wanna proceed with a motion, we can go round and round.
and we could do motions for individual candidates. So there are 3 seats to fill. So you can fill them one at a time, you can fill them as a slate. I don't know if that helps. It does. Thank you. And Tracy says 1 is a reappointment, so we need to, we're gonna recommend Mr. McWhorter.
See, I thought when fire hydrants got put in consent agenda that we were gonna get through this, fairly quickly. Because the fire hydrant was the long one in my tenure, but here we are. So let's do one at a time. You wanna do one at a time, or see if we got 3?
I make a motion that we reappoint Alan McWhorter.
Okay, there's a motion to reappoint Alan McWhorter. Is there a second?
Second.
Multiple seconds, Councilman Litton, I heard. Any discussion on this reappointment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise? Okay, Mr. McWhorter has been reappointed. Is there a motion for a second appointment?
I make a motion that Will Strap be one of the, be appointed.
Okay, Councilman Wood has, put Will Strap's name in, made a motion to appoint Will Strap.
second motion.
Second from Councilman Green. Discussions, questions further on this appointment? Okay, all those in favor of appointing Will Strap, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? All right, Will Strap has been appointed to the board, and so that's 2. We need 1 more.
That's all 3, isn't it? McWhorter.
McWhorter and Strap is all we have.
Okay.
Is there a third?
I make a motion that Bruce Putnam be appointed.
Okay, there is a motion that Bruce Putnam be appointed to the board.
Second.
There's a second from Councilman Wood. The motion was Councilman Green. Further questions or discussions on this issue, on this appointment rather? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? And that was also, so Mr. McWhorter, Mr. Strap, and Mr. Putnam have been appointed to the board.
And please, I hope that we can communicate to the other people, that there'll be other opportunities. I mean, I really just feel strongly, like Mr. Green said earlier about the TDA stuff. It's how we treat people and it's how we communicate. And with all respect to the planning and zoning board now, I appreciate greatly what they do.
So do I.
No problem.
And the application be kept for a year?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Councilman Green brought up an interesting question, which was, when we're filling these vacancies, because they will continue to exist as people rotate off, do you all want us to take it to the planning board first for a recommendation, or would you rather us just bring it to you all for you to review at the outset?
I think Green does.
That's,
I kinda do too, because, you know, we can be much more objective about it, because we don't sit on that board.
yeah.
I just feel like maybe we can be more objective about who's appointed rather than the members themselves. That's just my thoughts on it. Like I say, I wanna make sure nothing gets back to the board here that we don't support everything they do, because, believe me, I do. This would be the first time I've ever voted against anything that they didn't recommend. But this is not, we're not talking business here, we're not talking about zoning really, we're talking about form. So I just think that's different. And I think it's good that we really are deliberate about how they go about it and how we go about it.
We can, so we'll make that note so that we remember. Cause I'm just gonna tell you, my instinct is gonna be that I will remember what we did this time, which is go to them first. So we'll make a note, and Tracy will reel me in. Thank you.
I do think that in that scenario, it would be beneficial for members to attend the planning and zoning board meetings.
Well, I do too.
So, Mr. Parker?
So, Domino's update. So the Domino's, has purchased the properties right across from Town Hall, the former, hair salon, which yes, the former salon on Main, and the Love Vape Shop. The lease for Love's Vape Shop ends at the close of this calendar year. Domino's has indicated to us that they are going to lease out what was the hair salon to be a new hair salon. And they are going to hopefully put a Domino's quick service restaurant in where the vape shop is. They applied for a variance to the downtown design overlay district. It was not granted. That variance, the district doesn't allow drive-through windows or automobile-oriented service windows. The reason for that is it's too close to the stoplight, and as we're wanting to build a downtown culture, downtowns don't have drive-throughs.
CBS has them.
Yeah, CVS was there before the downtown design overlay. And so it's grandfathered in, but if the driver ever falls off of that building, too bad. Unless we change the ordinance. So there's the Domino's update. They're gonna get back with us in 6 months, and I think that we got that update a month ago from Domino's. Isaac says yes. So that's
So
nice.
how important was the variance to them? If being granted or not?
I mean, they,
What's a
yeah.
deal breaker?
Yeah, well,
Was it a deal breaker?
they acted like it was a deal breaker, but they've also spent $750,000 purchasing property to not check in, to not pay $50 for the letter that says, what can I do here? So I'm not sure why they didn't ask before they purchased it, but at this point, that company is not in the business of purchasing land and not putting a Domino's on it. So I feel certain that they're gonna put a Domino's on that site. It will just have a pickup window, which is a walk-up window. So you won't be able to drive through it. They're drawing a hard line between a drive-through and a pickup window. A pickup window, you drive to the window, take your pizza, but you've already paid and you didn't order it there. But a drive-through window has a message board and you pay and order at the window. But a pickup window, you don't. So now they're gonna just have a walk-up window. Yeah, we've chased this rabbit. It's
So
been a long time.
So let's say, Cookout wanted to take the property where Roosters used to be. They wouldn't be able to have their business because it had drive.
Correct.
So it limits our retail strategies to a certain extent.
Yes.
Unless they apply for a variance and then variance is granted.
When they apply for that variance, we will recommend that they don't get it. Why not? Because I don't ever recommend that anyone gets a variance, because to grant a variance, the planning board is taking away the legislative pen from you.
Let me back up. My general question is, why not a drive-through?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the variance.
I guess I did.
I agree with the variance. Once you give one, then everybody else is gonna make out one, I get
Yeah, and they take away they take away your legislative ability and nobody votes for them in a loving way. So the drive-through windows are to keep, so the thought behind it was that true downtowns don't have drive-throughs. Just like real downtowns don't have parking in the front of the building. And so when we put in that downtown design overlay, we got rid of things that weren't organic to real or other downtowns. And so that's what it's there for. And the design standards are across like what the facade of the building looks like, and the glass and the windows, and all of that is based on what traditional downtowns are. North Carolina Commerce, for instance, I know that I've beat the dead horse now, but North Carolina Commerce does not count this building as in our downtown. Our downtown is from the edge of the cemetery to, right there at what, will be Sweetie's Bakery on September first. Through the intersection to that Hair Raisers 2, which is right before Hoshi. But that strip is the downtown, Boiling Springs. So that matters because they define what that is, and then we can use grant money only in that strip. It's a semantics game, that part of it is. Any other questions on dominoes? I worked in that Sweetie's Bakery plans to open on September 1st. So I killed two birds with one stone. Water loop update, we're moving forward on those water loops, that we're using the emergency cash flow loans through, or the bridge loans through NCDEQ. Those water loops coming from Spring Forest down McBrayer Homestead into the northern town, and also on East Homestead Avenue, where Tractor Supply will go. Things are moving along on that as well. Sewer update on Wall Avenue, they're working on that. They've been extremely hampered by the rain, and they've also had some machine failures out there. It's a contractor, so it's not our guys, but they were out there assisting with that. But he plans to be back at work tomorrow, getting all of those things rectified. We're anticipating that to take 3 weeks. The road will not be finished for a month and 3 weeks. So we will put down a gravel overlay, and then that'll allow the road to settle, because we don't want to immediately pave it before it settles, because then it'll cave in again. Website redesign, it's time for our website redesign and our contract. That is scheduled to go until April 19th. Is that right, Judy? Was that the day I saw my email? April 19th-ish?
No,
Oh, I'm wrong.
November 26th.
Oh, well, I was way off. Okay, November 26th.
We may start questioning.
Well, I'm starting to wonder what I read now. Something's happening on April 19th.
Yeah, the Berkeley World Series.
April.
Hold on, April.
I'm gonna look at that, and I'm gonna send you all an email about it.
He's gonna tell you that.
Somewhere north.
No, I'm not gonna do that. April 19th. We received the multimodal planning grant from the North Carolina Department of Transportation's Integrated Mobility Division. And so that's gonna help us with our bike and pedestrian plan update, which is the last plan we have to update. It's from 2006. We have new card readers at Town Hall. And so that door behind you all now has a card reader access to allow more people to use the council room, so that folks can use this room without having direct access to our offices. We have new fobs. We've also gotten a new server. All of that was part of our commitment to cybersecurity and secure infrastructure. We received a grant to pay for the new server. Self-serving point, when do you all want to do my annual evaluation? Because the November meeting is scheduled for October 28th. So we can either postpone it, we can either postpone it to the December meeting, which will also be a swearing-in ceremony, or we can do it at the October 28th meeting. My hire date is November 15th.
I would like to do the 28th, so I get one more shot at it.
That's just, well, and I hear Fred, but then I hear Rhonda, which I think is, just, doesn't matter to me.
In all seriousness, the December meeting should be about the people getting sworn in.
Yeah.
October 28th.
On that note, don't forget, the November meeting, because of the election, we won't have it the week, the first Tuesday, so we'll have it the last week of October, which is the 28th at 6:30. We've got some important stuff that night. I also wanted to make sure that we mentioned, that I think it's important to note our thoughts and prayers with the victim of the Greenway tragedy this past week. His 22-year-old male who passed away. And he's from Gastonia. And so I think it's, I appreciate truly the team effort that's involved in one of those rescues and involved in that. Boiling Springs Police did a wonderful job you know, with their portion of it, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned that tonight just because it seems, we were so close to the end of the season, but we did have that down there. Wanted to make sure we, you know, paid homage to him. Thoughts on canceling the monthly subcommittee meeting? Yeah, well, we can do it without you, that's in that. So, is there a reason, that's, Tracy puts these in here by design, so I'm supposed to ask you that every week, but, is there a reason to have it? Or any subcommittees? Okay. Hearing none, we can do that. I think, well, never mind. Mr. Mayor, that concludes our remarks.
All right, very good, thank you so much. All right, I've got a random word here. Councilman Green?
A couple of things, and I've kind of decided whether I want to save them or go ahead with them. One of them has to do with the maintenance, and Mike's not here. None of that to do with town police. So where are they? We got one guy here, where's the chief? That's a joke, that's a joke. But I don't have something serious I'd like to say, so I think maybe I'll just wait till they're here. But you can tell, how's that? 'Cause I might not get it.
That would be great.
You know, we've always had this concern about recycle guys, how they treat every can on the streets turned over. And since we met last, I've had the opportunity of coming down my street when the garbage truck was in front of my house and when the recycle truck was in my house. So I just stopped and tried to see what the difference is. I'll start with the recycle. He picks a can up, he dumps it, he gets about 3 feet in the ground, he turns it loose. What happens? It turns over. Now, let's switch to our guy. He stopped in front of my house, he picked the can up, he dumped it, set it back down on the ground, he straightened it up. In fact, he turned it a little bit so I could know that he turned it almost a quarter turn so I could know that he picked up my garbage. And I'd say, that's a little thing, but that's a big thing. Because I go up my street, and when the recycle guys go, every can's in the road, 3 out of 4 of them are turned over. When our guy went up the street, not a can was turned over. I think they should be commended with this. And they save our cans, you know, I just felt that I needed to share that, because, you know, they get beat up all the time, but there's a big difference in the recycle guy and our guy. The first unfortunate thing is some people still think that the recycle guy is our guy. You know, because somebody says, so how about that can be my recycle guy turns my can over. And I think he thinks I'm putting them over, so we don't do it. The other one is town police. You know, there was a situation out in my neighborhood, a couple weeks ago, a tragedy there. And I was one of the first ones there, neighbor and a good friend, and I just want the town police to know how good they made me feel to be a part of them. They went above and beyond the call of duty. They could have just done their jobs, but they were compassionate to the people. They understood what happened. It did my heart what it could to see how they conducted themselves there. It was a tragic situation, but they just handled it really well. I think they should know that. And I know Jonathan was there, Chief Sheehan was there, several of the others, I didn't get to see them all, but and the family said that to me, how everybody, including the police department, how they made them, treated them. So I think they need to know that. That's all I got.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Ellis? Councilman Wood?
Yes, I would also like to talk about the situation at the Greenway, the fatality there. I mean, we hate for things like that to happen, but unfortunately, as I found out last night at the meeting, once you're in that river, there's very little control. We can control the bank, but once you're in the river, and one thing is to be said, it seems like the fatalities that happen has a commonality in that they start on the north side and they get over to the south side, and there's evidently a deep pocketing hole over there, and that's where the fatalities usually occur at. But once again, they're in the river, so we have very little control over that. So I'm not really sure what the answer is, but there seems to be a commonality of where these fatalities are occurring. But to back up, the Bowling Springs PD, the volunteer fire departments, the sheriff's department, everybody coordinated effort. They came down there and tried to find this person. You know, had drones in the air. I mean, it was a big deal trying to find this young fellow, 22 years old young man. And they had to suspend because of the weather, and then, you know, they found the fellow, I think, the next day at 10:30. But it was a very heroic effort. They did the very best they could to recover this person alive, but unfortunately, sometimes, you know, you're not in a swimming pool when you're in the river. And sometimes you just can't predict. But the other thing is, on a happier note, is that the third annual Broad River Greenway cardboard boat race and hamburger cook-off is to be held on August the 16th. Now, there's only 3 people that's cooking hamburgers so far. But now, if you go down there and you cook a good hamburger, you win $100. So, you know, somebody might need to enter in and, you know, $100, $25 entry fee. And I think they said they had 5 tandem boats that were registered, but Mason Cole's gonna play there. I don't know if you know Mason Cole, but he's a very good young country singer. They're gonna have food vendors there. They're gonna have things for the kids to do. So I highly recommend, if you get a chance, August the 16th, to be over at the Greenway. I think it'd be a fun day for a lot of people. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Thomas?
Yeah, I got a couple things. So, I echo that, a huge thank you to everybody that assisted with the Broad River Greenway event, from the sheriff's office to the PDs, to Bowling Springs Fire Rescue, and even the Greenway Ranger. And Zach, thank you for the updates on that as we had that thing unfolding, and everybody worked really good, and that's a good sign here for our public safety. Chief Jones asked me, from the fire department, whether we still have people that are serving on their fire department board. And I was like, yes, I think that's correct. And he said, well, are y'all getting the emails? I was like, I'm not getting any emails, so I don't know, of when they're having their meeting. So I don't know if he's forwarded it to the town or to Pat.
I've not seen.
So I think he needs some clarification from the town, what our role is and who's on that, so they can forward those correct emails. If we can do that, please. I've been talking with the postmaster and with Laura England, or I want to say Hamrick, but, and they're both concerned about that, lease coming up in October. So I told them to reach out to the town manager to go ahead and get that, because the post office will be could be delayed in that agreement, because it's not just a postmaster, it's somebody above her that has to approve all that stuff. So, and I was concerned about whether we were gonna raise any, have an increase for Statera or not. And she had some questions about what the museum was being rented for and how we come up with that formula. So I pointed her back to you as well.
She has made contact.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good. So, but I think, you know, we want to support them in their efforts as well. So, the last thing was, about the old permit system, and do we have an old paper permit system versus a computerized system? And how do we know, cause I got a call from somebody about a problem with the fence and complaining several things. And no harm, I mean, I don't think the town was doing their due diligence on that, but do we have a way of keeping a better record on that?
Tricky question. A few years ago, when Grayson was our lead forensic fellow, we moved to a platform called Civic Optimize, which is a paperless software. The problem is, up until that point, everything was on paper. And we are slowly but surely moving paperless. And so when we get a call for code enforcement on a property, then we have to locate the paper permits. And then sometimes it takes a while to find those because they're being retained, they're in the vault, they're in the attic, they're wherever. So it makes it a little bit tricky. We no longer take paper permits. We have a kiosk outside for everyone, even Dennis Thurman. And it is user friendly. And Isaac is standing by ready and waiting to help people with that. So that, you know, like Michael did an 811 locate request to dig. Well, if you've done a paper permit, he has no idea that you have done a permit because that paper copy is not, you know, it's not given to him, it's with Isaac. So we have to get rid of that now that we have this online system. So that problem has been corrected, it's just ongoing, the problem's been corrected. But backwards from roughly 2022-ish, we're trying to get those cataloged and input into a system. Our new software system for the finance department also has a paperless module, so we'll probably, don't hold me to this, but we'll probably be phasing out Civic Optimize in favor of using that module for permits and planning, because it has an online payment option with credit and debit cards. So that will be better.
So two quick follow-ups. So when somebody applies for that permit, when they're granted that permit, how long do they have to do whatever the job is? Can it be an open permit for 2 years, a year?
There are statutory shot clocks on those, 1 year typically. Certain development agreements, we have to give you vested rights, you have to get 2 years. Like the College Common thing, that's a 2 year.
And so a citizen's complaint, I mean, I guess anybody can complain and say that doesn't fit the code or they didn't get a permit, and then it falls on us to do the investigation, due diligence.
Yes, typically, if they say they don't have a permit, that is a lower priority issue than someone's installing a chicken wire fence next to my house, get out here and look at it. Because we wanna put eyes on that, you know, but they don't have a permit, we don't normally have to go out there, we typically can figure out whether you do or don't have a permit. Especially at this point, because any permit issued is electronically tracked.
Okay. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council Lit?
Okay, I was able to attend the fire department dedication along with Councilmember Green and Councilmember Thomas. And it was a nice event. Very well laid out, very well done. I think they've got a nice building, it's gonna be a great addition to the town. I am appreciative that the trash gets picked up regularly, the limbs get picked up regularly. I know you got short-handed on staff, but, you know, that's important to folks. And I guess with the leaf season coming up, we have to really, keep an eye on that, but I do appreciate that. I'm traveling out Brer Homestead Road to the new bypass going to work every day. I thoroughly enjoy that. So, GCL MPO chairman down there, I guess he's done a good job of getting that open, but it is very nice.
I got that open all over.
There you go.
But all we need to do is get that road paved down from Springmore down.
They're gonna pave the bridge to Skinner. I'm trying to convince them to pave all the way to Main Street, and to come to the traffic light. But they told me no, it didn't score high enough. So I asked when they were coming, and they would not say. Because I thought, well, we'll go out there and tear it
As
up.
long as they're still coming to get the really rough part, that thing is rough.
It's awful. It's like riding a carriage out through there. It's like riding a horse.
They patched some holes recently, and that helped a little bit, but still, it's nice to have that, route to work. That's all I have, thank you.
All right, thank you. Today I began my 23rd year of being a public educator. And a couple of things that I got from our convocation. One, I want to highlight a whole bunch. Actually, first I'll say Gardner Webb will be kicking back in. August 16th is also orientation day. And I've been invited to speak there for, again this year. Excited about that. The amount of scholarships that our kids got was in the millions and close to $10 million this year. I'm glad about that too, because I didn't have to write a very big check to Furman at all. AP passing rates, the number of associate's degrees earned by seniors at Crest High School was over, I think it was 95, I think it was short of 100, but that's almost a third of the graduating class that is entering whatever next phase with a 2-year degree already. But more specific to Boiling Springs, and I love that we are such an education community, the number 1 and number 2 highest performing schools, I forget what the composite something or another, but the number 1 and number 2 highest performing schools in the county are Boiling Springs Elementary and Springmore Elementary. And that's the type of quality schools that we have here. That's the type of education infrastructure that we get to build and plan around. And so I just wanted to highlight that. So when that's all I got, we have a closed session to enter into, if there is a motion for that.
Make a motion to go to closed session.
Motion from Councilman Thomas, second from Councilman Green. All those in favor say aye. Vote likewise. Okay. We'll take a 5-minute break. Meeting here. We're gonna go back? Yes. Okay, we're gonna go back. And you guys are welcome to stick around. That probably sounded really weird out front. Wait until we come back. Thanks, Fred.
See you, Fred.